Welcome to the Speak with People podcast. My name is Jason Raitz. I'll be your host, and this podcast exists to help you improve your communication skills. Whether you communicate one-on-one, to a team, from a stage, or from behind a screen, we know that when we improve our communication skills as leaders, it exponentially changes everything. It improves our relationships, it improves our leadership skills, and it improves our business skills. So let's get ready to dive into this next episode. Well, do you want to truly stand out as a leader? What does it even mean to stand out as a leader in your workplace, on your team? And have you ever thought about what is that one thing that can distinguish highly effective leaders to their senior teams? What is that one thing that can really get them to stand out in their occupation and to their clients? Well, today in this episode of the Speak with People podcast, we're going to dive deep into that one thing. It really is a transformative. I messed it up there. That, my friend, is probably my third mess up in 100 or so episodes. So you got to be a part of it.
It's fine. It's very human, right?
There it is. All right, I'll go from the top again.
Fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, do you want to truly stand out as a leader in your field, in your workplace, in your community? How is your leadership able to stand out? Do you know that there really is one thing that distinguishes highly effective leaders, senior teams, and sales team out from everyone else? Well, in this episode of the Speak with People podcast, we dive deep into this and how this one thing really can transform our leadership. I am so excited to interview today a leadership expert. His name is Todd Holzman. Oh my goodness. I have loved doing the research on Todd and his company and how they work with leaders all over the world. He's a former leadership coach to IBM's top executives, head of organization development at Honeywell, was a fellow with McKinsey's Change Center. Todd has taught world leaders at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, developed doctoral students at Columbia University, trains tens of thousands of leaders globally to get to candor. He's the founder of Holzman Leadership. It's a global consultancy. Todd's real work process has been used by Fortune 500, FTSE 100, and Global 2000 companies to transform their leaders, their cultures, their business results. He has a BS in industrial labor relations from Cornell, an MA from Columbia, and a EM from leadership and development from Harvard. My goodness, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, Todd. Thank you for being on the Speak with People podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jason. When I hear the BS in ILR, it sounds like BS.
I love it.
Thank you for the introduction. You read it almost as if we wrote it for you. So really, just great. Thank you.
I love it. Well, for many years, I watched a TV show where I learned a little bit about communication called The Office. And one of the characters graduated from Cornell. And so as soon as I saw Cornell, I start to have all these Andy Bernard jokes. So
that's hysterical. Great.
Well,
thank you.
Todd, I can't thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today. I know it's going to be so beneficial and challenging for our listeners. Some of our listeners who don't know you, can you just kind of give us a little bit more of your story, what's kind of gotten you to this place, who you are, what you do, all of those kind of things?
Gosh. I also want to say that the work that I'm doing is not just me. I have a 13-person global faculty, more than half of whom are in the UK and Europe. Some are here in the States. I live in New York City, but kind of we're all over the place. And I think we all have our own different reasons for being committed to cultivating this one thing, as you called it, candor. I think for me, it starts with mom and dad. Like maybe for a lot of people, it
Yep.
does. I still remember. I think I was 7 years old. Grandparents' wedding anniversary. And we come back to the house, and my grandma's here, my mom's here. My grandma asks me, "So how did you like the party?" And I remember I hear my dad's voice in my head, "Be honest." So I say, "I didn't like it." And she says, "Why not?" And I say, "Because you kept calling Grandpa an idiot all night. I don't
Oh,
think you love him." So grandma's cool with it, right? But my mom not
Uh-huh.
cool with it at all.
Uh-huh.
She pulls me to the side of the, I think, dining room or something, and she's like, "Kit, what are you doing? Talk to your grandma that way?" I'm like, "You guys always told me to be honest." She's like,
She
"Not
asked me.
that honest, right?" So,
Wow.
so, but it, I guess maybe because of the way I was hatched, because of the way my parents raised me, I definitely always felt this internal pressure to be honest.
Hmm.
And but then you see that early childhood experience kind of made me feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't be. So I always felt in this dilemma. Like if I was, things didn't work out so well. But
Yeah.
then if I wasn't, I didn't feel so well. And I I,
Wow.
I honestly struggled with it a lot, and then started got some answers why I was so bad at it. Probably when I went to Columbia University to do my first graduate degree, and then since then, for the last, that was 1994, I have completely dedicated my professional existence, which is a huge part of my life, to trying to inspire and equip people to get to candor with each other around things that really matter.
Wow.
Primarily inside of the workplace, but increasingly lately, last few years, also outside of the workplace.
Wow. Wow. Boy, there is so much there. I'm already thinking of rows of questions I could ask already based on what you shared.
Sure, yeah, yeah. I start anywhere or start wherever. Yeah,
Well, I
wherever you
love it.
think.
Well, let's start with more on the personal side. So, New
Okay.
York, are you a Yankees fan or a Mets fan? I'm somewhat of a baseball fan. If you're not a baseball fan, no worries.
So funny story about that. So my dad is old enough to have known the Brooklyn Dodgers being here,
Wow.
and his father was a big Brooklyn Dodgers fan, and so he would always take my so he would take my father down. Was it Ebbets Field? What is it
Yep.
called? What was it
Yep.
called? Okay,
Ebbsfield.
in
Yep.
Brooklyn, and my father at a very early age apparently just hated the Dodgers. And he tells me a story. He told my father, like, he saw one of the Dodgers games. He goes, never take me here again. Their play, it's disgusting. I can't even watch it. It's like, tells me apparently he had an honesty issue as well.
It ran in the family,
And so
generational.
yeah, so he became, so notoriety. He was telling, so he became like a huge Yankee fan. So, but my mom grew up in Queens, so I don't want to make anybody unhappy. So we probably more Yankees than Mets, but both. And a
I
lot of New
love it.
Yorkers, you don't choose one or the other. You're kind of like all New York teams, all good.
Yeah,
Nets,
absolutely.
Knicks, Rangers, Islanders, all of it.
Oh, I love it. We live in Tampa, about 30 minutes from Steinbrenner Field, where the Yankees do spring
Right,
training. So
right, 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 right,
it's
right.
just glorious. I'll never forget that
Yeah,
first time going into the stadium and just seeing like how big exactly Judge is and Stanton is, and
right,
some of these
right. I saw Reggie
players.
hit the 3 home runs at the World Series when I was a kid. Yeah, so it was amazing. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I
You know,
I am
you know.
speechless now.
Yeah, Chris Chambliss, Bucky Dent. I remember all those guys. And
Oh my
I was
goodness!
huge, so I was definitely more of a fan of them than the Mets. But still,
Wow, that's
yeah,
incredible. I love it.
yeah.
Okay, so as we kind of drill down to this one thing, as we started about
Mhm,
Canada, one of the questions that came up as you're telling your story, we
mhm,
have a lot of conversations on this podcast, and when specifically speak with people, we go and do some trainings in companies for communication skills. Are you seeing? I mean, we're in these unprecedented times. Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, Boomers, all in the same workplace. Soon, Generation Alpha will be coming up. Do you see a wildly different level of candor among each generation? Is it, are
no,
there any of the same attributes to the younger generation because they've grown up on technology? Do they just call it out? I'm just curious from the get go with your
uh,
work in the leadership field, your thoughts on that.
it's a really good question. The short answer is no, but I understand why you asked the question, because people from my generation look at people, say millennials, and we'll say, well, back in the day, we were more honest and direct, and you got all these people who are fragile, and
Right.
if you tell them the truth about anything, they're gonna kind of crumble and get defensive and all of that. And I think what's interesting is, so I'm only looking at conversations where people haven't gotten the results that they wanted,
Mm,
and or where they're predicting they won't get the results that they want.
right.
So this is what we've studied. We've studied this, I mean, very extensively. So we've looked at well over 30,000 documented conversations that the
Wow.
person who shared it with us, where they're saying, here's what I actually said and did, here's what they said and did, one or many other people, one or more than one than other people, or here's the conversation I expect I'm going to have with one or more people, and here's what I would actually say and they would say, and I don't think it's going to generate the results I'm hoping for.
Yep.
Now, so in some ways, the data set that I have is focused on where there's an actual or a predicted results gap. And um, and by the way, just so your listeners know, these are conversations with clients.
Okay.
These are conversations where you're kind of trying to say something meaningful up the chain. These are conversations with people on your teams. These are conversations with customers. So
Yeah.
it's kind of conversation in all directions.
Yep.
The only criteria we said is it has to be about a conversation about something that's important, or whether you had or predicting a results gap.
Mm,
Okay. What's interesting about that is when you look at the data, there's always something that the person is doing that they're unaware of that
wow.
is preventing them from getting better results.
Right.
And the thing that they're always doing that they're not aware of is compromising candor in some way.
Wow.
And and so that's why I'm so committed to candor. And either, if I'm to grossly oversimplify it, there's errors of expression they're making,
Hmm.
but there's also errors of exploration that they're making. So expression is when you express the truth of what you think. Exploration is trying to better understand the truth of what somebody else thinks.
Wow.
And sometimes the problem is that you're honest, but you're not helping the other person be honest with you.
Right.
And the hallmark of it of being an honest conversation that's effective is you could be honest with people in ways that pull them to be the same with you.
Wow.
Okay? Because the point around candor is not just about expressing the truth of what you think. It's about treating the conversation as a collaborative search for the truth
Wow.
in order to figure out what to do about it with other people. So there are errors of self-expression, but there are other errors of other exploration. And when you look at the errors of self-expression, and you and I were talking about this beforehand, so I like the way you said it was really good. It's either people are avoid the conversation, right?
Hmm.
Or they handle it too aggressively.
Right.
It's an AA problem. No
Right.
pun intended. It's like, hi, I'm Todd. I have a problem with candor. So, and of course, avoidance is a problem because we can't solve any problem we can't talk about with each other. So
Wow.
if we avoid
Right.
it, we can't make any progress. But if we're too aggressive, then people pay more attention to us than the issue that we're trying to discuss, and that compromises candor.
Right.
And also, on the other hand, if you don't actually explore the truth of what other people what other people think, then you're only seeing a very small part of the problem.
Yep.
So now, why did I give you that long-winded answer? What was your
Well, because
question?
of is there a difference in each generation?
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, it's nice if somebody answers the question. Um, so that's the context.
Yeah.
So when I look at all of these case studies that have been submitted to us across generations,
Yep.
I don't see any differences.
Wow.
I don't. Uh, I think because fundamentally, I don't care what culture does to us, we're still 99.9% genetically the same. And we were still raised by previous generations too.
Yeah.
The difference that I do see is what people think is right and what one should do versus what people actually do. So you will see in some of the 20 and 30 somethings like a greater aversion to making anyone uncomfortable.
Right.
I
Yeah.
do see that.
Yep.
And but they also are very quick. I was just working with a group of 30 somethings just the last 2 days in Boston, but they're very quick to realize, like, yeah, I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, so I'm holding back from saying something that I think my client needs to hear. But by not saying something they need to hear, I'm depriving them of some important truth, and
Wow.
therefore of helping them make a decision that is theirs. I'm stealing something from them,
Yeah.
because my job, if I'm talking to a client, is my whole job is to help them make a fully informed decision,
Yep.
because it's their decision, not mine. But if I hold back from having the difficult conversation, say, then I'm depriving them of important information so that they can make a decision. So on the one hand, I don't want to upset them, but if I steal this important piece of information from them, which is uncomfortable, that's also not respectful.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so what I do notice is there's more of an interest in what's the truth,
Yeah.
and you know, and a willingness to, make that a priority.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's more of a willingness, but what I see across all generations is really caring about what's true. That
Ooh.
hasn't changed.
Hmm. Wow, that's really good. Oh, really good and really helpful. It's interesting. Uh, what do you think are some of the key reasons why leaders who struggle with candor, especially in the workplace, either with their clients or with other coworkers,
Fine.
what do you think are some of those key roadblocks that are just, for whatever reason, they're called upon, they shied away from answering, you know, for whatever reason, these roadblocks are getting in the way.
Okay. Well, I mean, thankfully, I just don't have to give you my opinion and my experience. This has been like a really well researched question.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll give the more kind of like colloquial explanation too. Um, so first of all, we have to have a definition of what candor is,
Yeah.
right? And again, I'll just re-anchor us all. It's about treating every important conversation as a collaborative search for the truth
Ooh.
in order to make things better, right? So that means you've got to express the truth of what you think, but you also have to be equally interested in helping other people express the truth of what they think, particularly when they disagree with you,
Wow.
because you're more committed to figure out what's true than being right,
Yeah.
or to keeping things comfortable. So if that's the North Star, say, um, then what gets in the way of people doing that? Well, I think we actually, well, listen, if we're not feeling threatened, if we don't feel there's any potential for embarrassment in these conversations, and we're pretty comfortable, we do that reasonably well.
Right.
People that like you have really great relationship with, you've got deep trust with, you could talk to them about anything, and you're willing to challenge their thinking, and you're willing to be challenged by them, and you could kind of go there, no problem, right? I mean, I imagine you have that experience with people that you love or are really close with, or
For
old
sure.
friends from school, like 100% talking about anything. That's wonderful. We all look for that. I mean,
Yep.
those are the best relationships in our lives, and everything else is a distant fourth. But what happens to people anytime we're talking about things that we care about, it matters for some reason. um it turns out that an overprotective program kicks in
Ooh.
that blocks us from being candid in ways that are effective. And this is not my claim. This was discovered by a guy from Harvard, Chris Argyris. Chris had, let me see, wrote 30 books, 150 articles, and received 14 honorary doctorates for his massive contributions to organizational behavior, leadership studies, educational studies, the study of research, social sciences, etc. The guy was phenomenal. And this is what he discovered, is that it's not that people don't have the right values in their hearts, right? I mean, I'll ask you, I imagine if I were to ask you, how important do you think it is to be courageous when you have these conversations, but also to be curious and to also be compassionate for people when they think and feel differently than you do? I imagine, Jason, you would say, yeah, all those things are super important.
100%.
Okay. But what happens to us is when we feel even a little bit of threat or the potential for embarrassment for ourselves or other people that we're talking to, this overprotective program kicks in. So although we know we actually in our hearts value courage, we also want to keep things comfortable, ourselves and other people, right? Even though, and the problem is we overdo that. That's a problem because then we say things, we don't share certain information because maybe it'll be uncomfortable for somebody, ourselves
Right.
or the other person, or maybe we kind of say a bit when it's really a lot, and there's a bit of a problem, or no, we have a big freaking problem.
Right.
So right, it's just these little ways that we compromise the truth just kind of creep in out of comfort, but also because we're also designed to be anti-curious,
Oh,
right? Because yes, we all believe in curiosity, but how many of us don't want to kind of be right and not wrong in these conversations? And that desire to be right and not wrong can trump our curiosity to figure out what's true. And then we got to be compassionate. But who amongst us doesn't condemn other people for thinking and feeling differently than
right.
we do, particularly when we think it's crazy?
Right.
And we vilify each other all of the time during these conversations.
Right.
Somebody kind of thinks this way, go, oh, they're doing that because they didn't get the promotion. Whatever it is, we always have some kind of fanciful story
Yep.
that negates the validity of where they're coming from. So
Yep.
we've got two sides to our nature. We've got this higher order self that believes in things like courage and curiosity and compassion, but then we're always at war with ourselves
Wow.
because we also want to keep things comfortable and we're competitive. We want to win the conversation. We want to control things,
Yep.
and we condemn people. So what I want people to understand is it's not that you don't have the right values if you're having difficulty in these conversations. The reason you have difficulty with them, getting to candor, is because you have an overprotective program that gets activated that makes you prioritize your comfort, competition,
Wow.
makes you condemn people, and you largely will be unaware of it when it's happening to you. So that generates all kinds of fears for people. I mean, so
Right.
that's what's happening for people.
Wow.
What they'll tell you is they won't tell you that. What they'll tell you is, I don't want to hurt the relationship,
Right.
right? I don't want to have some big conflict. I don't want to upset them. I don't want their response to derail the thing I'm trying to accomplish, because it's not always, I'm being kind. I don't want to upset people.
Right.
It's also, if they get upset, we're in a conflict, then the thing I'm trying to accomplish is completely jeopardized.
Right.
Salespeople say that all the time. There's some salespeople say, I'm not having the conversation, but I want to have the relationship. And some of those people really care about the relationship. Some of those people don't care about the relationship. The only reason they care about the relationship is they care about the sale.
Right.
If they hurt the relationship, they're going to compromise the sale.
Exactly.
Again, you see,
Yep.
win, don't lose. Try to compete and achieve my objective.
Yep.
So that's a big part of what's getting in people's way. Their programming, our programming, and also our stories. We often create all kinds of worst case disaster fantasies in our heads about all the bad stuff that's going to happen if we actually are more truthful in the conversation. And it's not that those stories aren't true at all, but they're almost often not as true as you make them.
Right.
Because they ain't going to be as bad as you think. And what's
Right.
also you're not realizing, it's already pretty bad because you're not having the conversation. And if you don't have it, it's going to get worse.
Exactly. Wow. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. I think the wow is what the heck do I ask him now after that long diatribe?
No, not at all.
Sorry,
I
man.
mean, you're taking us on this leadership masterclass here, and I'm thinking through, how much of the programming is someone's unhealthy inner world. At whatever point, they were convinced, they were told. I mean, especially some of these inner stories that maybe their ideas don't matter, maybe to be quiet, maybe their leadership doesn't matter. And so at what point, so what are some steps that if leaders are in that camp, because I think maybe there's two camps, maybe there's more, you can correct me, but the camp that says
the avoiders and aggressors, you
yes,
could say, right?
Yes. So if they're in the avoiders, are there any inner world, emotional intelligence type practical steps that they can take, to work on that?
Sure. So first of all, what I want to say, even in very psychologically healthy people, this program is there.
Wow.
And now, perhaps if you've been through some real hard stuff in your life and it's left kind of a mark, say, I don't know what the research is on this, but I could imagine maybe it could leave you more concerned than somebody who hasn't been through some of the rough experiences that you've been through.
Yep.
But it's also just a very human thing. I forget who the famous English author was who said something. He said that the cross is a symbol of the division between ourselves and within ourselves.
Wow.
So like the idea of the vertical is, anchoring to the earth, but to the most high and most noble. And this is the bar of our humanity that's keeping us down. And we're trying to always reconcile that conflict. It was like, I just can't remember who the heck said that, because I'd love to lay claim to it, but I can't. It's too brilliant. So one, I just want to say to people, it's like totally normal. And so in terms of how to, I can't train you properly in a podcast, but how could one bootstrap yourself into it?
Yeah.
Because there are probably a lot of people who are avoiders who get feedback from other people. Just lean into the conversation.
Right. Just speak up.
You speak up, go for it. It's not as bad as you think. So first of all, what I would say is part of it is probably about people finding their courage.
Yeah.
So how do you find your courage? Well, here's what I would recommend. So I would write down, I would take a piece of paper, divide it into two sides, left and right. I've actually never said this out loud before. So thank you for the question. On the left side, write down all your fears about the bad stuff that's going to happen. If you were to be more truthful in the conversation with your client, with your boss, with your colleague, whomever, right? That's the left column. In the right column, write down all the bad stuff that is already happening because you're not having the conversation.
Wow.
And write down all the bad stuff that you predict would happen by avoiding the conversation. And bad stuff for other people, for yourself,
wow,
for the business, and just look at it. And because in some ways there's a risk analysis you need to do, right? So I think what people will discover is the cost of having the conversation is far exceeded by the cost of avoiding it.
Wow. Yes.
And if you have that realization, then I think one, you'd be able to find your courage. Okay. The second thing I would do is I would look at that left column and ask yourself, is it really true? For each one of those bullet points. And some of those things will be. I mean, fear is a powerful ally. So don't wave it off like, oh, there's nothing to be worried about. There is something to be worried about. I'm not saying there isn't.
Right.
And a lot of people make it like there isn't. You just need to be more courageous and get over your fears. No, that's not true. We have this fear detection. We have this detection system, and then fear is the consequence of it. It's with us for a reason. Right. I mean, for God's sakes, our genes are here because we didn't do stupid things.
Right.
Right. Because we had an anxiety response to something which made us avoid things that could have killed us, right? I mean, historically, right?
Right.
So we have well developed threat detection centers, right? So they're meant to be respected, but not to be governed by.
Wow.
That's the difference.
Right.
So look at some of those things. And go, which of these things are actually legitimate risks, and which of these things are just a story?
Yeah.
Because some of those things may not be as true as you make them. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, so how do you express yourself in a way that is both truthful and minimizes other people being defensive or upset with you? That's the key. So that's a skill.
Yeah.
I'll give a routine. 3 steps, man. Share your point. Step 1, share your point of view. Step 2, explain to people how you came to that point of view. And then step 3, ask them what they think about your point of view.
Yep.
Okay? So this is a simple routine. It's anything but easy.
Right.
So for example, I was working with a talent acquisition person at a kind of global pharma, and the executive, wants to hire a friend of his from a previous company where he worked, and this talent manager has interviewed this guy he wants to hire, and this talent manager or acquisition person has like real expertise in evaluating talent, and he's like super clear that this guy, um, they need somebody who's going to be a great collaborator in the role, and this guy's whole history, it's all about him. And he's like, if there's anybody who would display anti-collaborative behaviors, this is the poster child. So that in his mind, horrible fit,
Ooh.
right? And so we looked at the conversation that he had with him that didn't generate the results he wanted with the executive. And you can see he just said to us, it's like, I'm holding back because this is his guy, and I don't want him to kind of attack me
Right.
because I'm attacking his guy, and then, he first of all, he got, one of his problems is that he was so convinced he's right, meaning the talent acquisition person, that he automatically saw this conversation as a competition,
Yep.
which is the wrong way to see it. I have to prove to him that I'm right and he's wrong. Well, you're setting yourself up for combat if you put yourself. Whereas if you think to yourself, my job is to help him make a choice that's his. I'm trying to serve him in his best interests. Then it
Right.
totally changes your whole mindset toward the thing. And when he started to realize that I am serving him poorly by depriving him of my insights,
Right.
right?
Wow.
That there are bad things that are going to happen and that have happened already by not having the conversation. So he could justify the avoidance based upon the fear of being attacked, but he sees the cost of avoidance starkly. He's like, okay, I got to do something about that. What do I do about that? Because I'm still concerned he's going to be upset when I express myself. So we
Yep.
worked it out, and he said, so we practiced it the other day. I think it's going to go great because I've done this with like thousands of people. And he's going to say to him, like, listen, I want to make sure you're in a position to make the very best decision that you can. And obviously, from our prior conversations, I've got some concerns about this guy. But what I want to do is share with you what I learned from the interview, which leads me to have the concerns that I do. And ultimately, whatever you decide to do, I got your back. I just want to make sure you have all the information you need to make a decision that's right for you
Wow.
and
Yes.
right for your friend.
Right.
So that changes the tone. And then the 3-step routine is, well, first of all, I think the likelihood he's going to succeed in this role is very low because the role requires collaboration. And the data I'm seeing that I've gotten from him shows the exact opposite of collaboration. See, that's the point of view. And let me tell you why I say that. Because
Wow.
in the conversation, 2 data points. In the conversation, when I asked about his accomplishments, he never used the word we once. He used the word I, even though he was part of a team. Number two, he was bad mouthing the colleagues in his previous role, where he kept saying, this guy was an idiot, literally in the interview, this guy's an idiot, this guy's an idiot. So in my experience, when somebody calls all of his colleagues an idiot and only compliments himself for the achievements, doesn't give any credit to others, that's not a person that you're going to, that person is almost never going to be collaborative. And the role requires collaboration, which means you're not going to get the performance that you need from this guy. He's going to wash out in a few months. We're going to be back here again trying to rehire somebody, and it's going to be bad for your guy. But that's just my take on it. What's your reaction to my point of view? And see the 3-step routine.
Yes.
That's all. Here's my point of view. Here's why I say that. What do you think about what I just said? And now it's a collaborative conversation, right? Because I'm putting it out there, not as you have to agree with it. I'm putting it out there. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm inviting you to differ with me. Because again, I care more about what's true than about being right.
Wow.
And so we practiced it with the guy. We did two times around the horn, just in opening the conversation that way. He found his own words for it. Didn't say it exactly the way I just said it to you, but the guy's ready to rock and roll.
Yep.
And now if the executive makes this decision to still go with his guy, at least he knows the talent person. First of all, he comes across as more credible now, so the relationship between them is going to be stronger.
Yep.
And also, if it goes sideways in him, he knows this guy's got his back one way or the other. He's going to help him out of the bind. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely.
So it takes courage, but it takes competence.
Yes. Yep. Well, and I love that 3-step process because it disarms. So often people come into it and they're like, I just got to tell you, you're absolutely wrong and you're an idiot for thinking, or they'll just come across it the wrong way. And that 3-step process almost disarms to the point of like, hey, I'm on your side. I want to help you succeed. We're going to do this together. But the truth has to come through. Oh, that's so powerful.
Can I say, but the heart has to be in the right place.
Right.
Because if you just use the 3-step routine, let's say it's like, I think this is an awfully stupid idea. I'm not sure why you can't see it. Let me tell you why you're an idiot. And at the end go, do you also agree that you're an idiot? It's more entertaining. So if you do the 3-step process and your heart is at the right place with the intention with the idea of being truthful with him in a way that will serve him.
Yep.
And respecting him, that it's about him making a choice that he can feel right about.
Yeah.
Then it's just a gimmick and it won't work. So your values and the technique all have to be aligned with each other.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, I love that. Let's switch sides for a second. So the overly aggressive, in my own, this is my family, but we adopted our youngest from China and he has autism and he's on the spectrum, and parenting our first 4 was a totally different ball game than parenting him. Yeah. And I know we're not talking about parenting conversations. I'm getting to it though. With his autism, the filter, is just gone. Yeah. It's just gone. Where, but we have some of those employees in our workplaces where they're way over aggressive.
Autistic.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And they're very entertaining.
Yes. So, maybe if someone has self-diagnosed or they're self-aware that, okay, maybe my filter is, not as strong as, or I have a lack of empathy, or whatever the reason that's holding them back from being, overly aggressive, what are some practical steps for them, to think through?
So let's talk about what not to do and what to do as 2 distinct things. Because I've worked with a lot of people, and my team has as well, people that have gotten the feedback they're too aggressive, right? And it almost seems invariably those people way overcorrect, and then they never share the truth of what they think, because they've been beaten up by HR, or somebody. So And the feedback they're getting is kind of oftentimes they're getting the feedback that they're too direct and honest.
Mm.
That's sometimes the feedback they're getting. I think the feedback is often actually an incorrect diagnosis of the problem. It's not that they're being too direct. They may be, but it's not that they're being too direct with their view of reality.
Right.
It's that they're being too directive.
Mm.
And there's a difference between being direct and directive. So, and what I mean by that is they move too quickly to get people to adopt their solutions before people agree there's a problem that requires a solution. So, for example, let's say you're a financial advisor or something, right? And you've got this great investment strategy and you're pushing that too soon. But your client, there's no alignment between you and them of what their fundamental problem or opportunity is.
Right.
And you've moved too quickly to push your solution on them. How are they going to react? I mean, not well in some fashion,
Right.
right?
Whoa.
Maybe,
Whoa. Let's get to know each
maybe
other.
whoa, or maybe yeah, let's buy me a few drinks first, for goodness
Right.
sakes. You know, or they may lip service you, man, right? And you feel
Yep.
like you've made progress, and you're like, and then you're delusional because they're covering up, right?
Yep.
So either way, it's bad news for you. So this is part of the problem is if you jump to action too quickly before you have agreement on the problem or opportunity, and then that solution will be a solve for that,
Yep.
then you will often get the feedback that you're too aggressive, you're too pushy, yada yada. So the thing to avoid is jumping to action too soon. It doesn't mean you can't talk about the doesn't mean you can't share your view directly on what the problem, opportunity, or issue is.
Yep.
This is the confusion. This is the confusing feedback that people who are too given feedback that true direct that they have in their minds because of what they've been told. So still that three-step routine can be handy,
Yep.
I think. Here's what I think, here's why, but I want to hear your take on it. If you do it with a genuine, in the spirit of genuine curiosity, then you can kind of get away with sharing your view without it coming across as too aggressive.
Wow. Wow.
But again, your heart has to be in the right place. You're not doing it as a gimmick, like, oh, now I got to ask this person what they think, so they think I really care.
Yep.
It
Right.
can't be like that. It's like, Jason, here's what I think, here's why, but maybe you see some flaws in my thinking. I want to hear your take on it.
Yep.
So you got to commit the truth and trying to figure out what's true with somebody else, and having a feeling that maybe there has to be some humility to this too. It's like
Yep.
courageous humility. You
Mm.
got to have the courage to express the truth of what you think, but you got to be humble enough to have self-doubt.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's a term that kind of came out of my brain, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. It's like, yeah, courageous humility. So that's super important. Also, the pure way of saying it is just ask more questions.
Yes.
Like, so sometimes even before you express yourself, maybe you can say, hey, I got an opinion on this thing, but before I share it, I really want to better understand what you think about things. So maybe you start with exploring what they think before expressing what you think.
Wow.
And that's kind of an antidote to aggressiveness, I
Yes.
think.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Listening, you just can't go wrong.
Generally not. There's a trap there though, because if you overcorrect and you end up leading with too many questions, right? First of all, if you ask people too many questions without giving them something back
Yes.
and sharing more of what you're thinking, then I think at a certain point, people can feel like they're on a witness stand.
Right.
And we poll the groups all the time. It's like, how many questions? Forget like people who are really interested in what you think, but how many questions do you think you could tolerate before they got to share more of what they think? Everybody's like, about three.
Yeah.
3 to 4. I heard person go 1. I go, he goes, yeah, but I'm very impatient. I'm like, okay, got it. But then the thing you really got to watch out for asking leading questions, because if you take my advice the wrong way, it could backfire on you hard. In terms of, remember, this is the advice to the person that's too aggressive.
Yep.
So what they might do is go, okay, let me not share my point of view. Let me ask a question instead. Okay, I'm okay with that. But whatever you do, don't ask leading questions. And leading questions aren't really questions.
Right.
Leading questions are questions I'm using to steer you to my point of view so that you can see it without me having to say it.
Right. Right.
Right? Like, imagine you're a financial advisor or something. Imagine your manager was listening to the call you had with a potential client. And then the manager goes to, so how'd you think the conversation went? You're like, I think it went pretty well. Any opportunities to do better? Not so sure. How do you think the level of engagement was with the client? At some point, like the hint is so thick, you could see it coming from Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? So, and that stuff, it's like, it's so popular.
Yeah.
People do this, but it really backfires hard. People see through it. They don't like it. They're uncomfortable with it. It's awkward, all of that. So for you aggressors out there, don't turn it into a passive aggressive where you're asking
Right.
these leading questions.
Right. Right. Oh, it's so good. Todd, this has been so incredibly powerful. I mean, I've taken pages of notes. Thank you so much for just opening up the vault of your wisdom. I know this is going to help our audience lead in ways that they have not before. Before we turn the corner fully and I let you go, would love to ask you some questions just about some resources that you would recommend. We talk about speakers on this podcast all the time. Is there a speaker that you just absolutely, every single time you hear them communicate, they either, challenge you, they fill up your bucket, you just have to share that talk with somebody else?
Well, one, we did create a free resource for your listeners. So if they email us at, let me double check this. I forgot about it. It's Todd Holzman at candor.com. Let me just, I'll double check this with my PA. What is the email for candor? Sorry about that, Jason. I'm usually a lot more buttoned up than this. So that's one thing. So I want you guys to have some free resources. They can also go to my blog where there's actually tons of videos and stuff on this. Holzmanleadership.com. So it's HOLZMAN leadership.com. So there's tons of stuff there, but we created some special free resources for your audience.
Oh, awesome.
In terms of stuff that like isn't ours and part of my firm, good stuff that's worth reading, if that's the question.
Yes.
Or worth watching. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
Okay. I would, and if you're particularly interested in what he has to say about candor, I would, first of all, you could type in YouTube Jordan Peterson, the truth, something like this, and you'll see all the little things he has to say about why it's important to express the truth of what you think.
Wow.
You could also check out his books, 12 Rules for Life, in which one of the chapters, I forget which rule this is, but it's called Tell the Truth, but at least don't lie.
Oh.
So I think that's really powerful. I would also check out Chris Ardress. Check out stuff from Harvard Business Review, which would be good, which a lot of it's free now. His last name is spelled Argy. So Argyris, first name Chris. Great article to read from him is called Good Communication That Blocks Learning.
Wow.
And I'll share with you two other, probably some of the best leadership books that have ever been written. It's a lot of crap out there, Jason, but because it's such a money-making industry. I would check out anything by Ron Heifetz. I taught with him at the Kennedy School of Government. He wrote a great book called Leadership Without Easy Answers, and then some companion pieces after that. One of his books is called Leadership on the Line, The Art and Science of Staying Alive While Leading.
Wow.
And also Dean Williams, a friend of mine. I also taught with him at the Kennedy School. He wrote a great book called Leadership in a Fractured World, with preface his buddy, the Dalai Lama. So, but Dean's like, Dean grew up in Perth in Australia, very down to earth guy who's really thought about, both of these guys, all the gentlemen I mentioned, Dean and Ron and Chris, are all people who think about leadership as the ability to see and mobilize other people to face the truth of things and to do something about it that does good in the world.
Wow. Wow. That
So
is powerful.
Yeah.
Oof.
So yeah, and so it is, by the way, it is in fact Todd Holzman candor at gmail.com.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I can't wait. We will put that in our show notes. We'll put that in our community Facebook group of 1,200 leaders that's growing every day as we're looking to each sharpen our communication skills. Todd, this has been truly amazing. I can't thank you enough for your time. I can't thank you enough for opening up your wisdom and just so freely pouring it out. And we'll be sending people to your website to connect with you. Really, really thank you for this.
It's been my privilege. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Speak with People podcast. We hope that you were encouraged. We hope that you were inspired and challenged to improve your communication skills. I want to thank you again for being a part of the Speak with People podcast community. Make sure you don't miss out on being a part of the Speak with People Facebook community group. Just head to Facebook, type in Speak with People, scroll down and join our community, because every single day we're encouraging each other. We're helping each other to improve our communication skills. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.